Kohler, who is the CEO of the Regional Task Force on the Homeless, and of course, Deacon Jim Vargas, who's President and CEO of Father Joe's Villages. Over the last several weeks, the resiliency and the strength of San Diegans has been on full display for all to see. And San Diegans, by and large, have absolutely been stepping up and cooperating with state, county, and city directives. And local businesses, big and small, have continued to make efforts to keep the public safe from this virus. However, we are not done. We continue to work together with one united effort, all of us, to help flatten the curve. Public health officials have been clear that the full impact of the coronavirus is not here yet. The storm is still on the horizon. So every day, every hour, and every minute must be focused on preparing our city. That's why we're drafting eviction moratorium laws that protect businesses and residents, putting into effect economic relief package to help small businesses to stay afloat, and doing everything that we can to mitigate job losses. So today I want to cover a few important topics. First, our most recent actions on homelessness. Second, an important city council vote that is happening tomorrow. And third, key conversations I had today with San Diego's business and biotech communities. We are taking swift action as a city to protect some of those who are most vulnerable from the spread of COVID-19. The multi-agency team and the homeless team that we have put together at the Emergency Operations Center has been working on a new coordinated and system-wide approach to help homeless individuals during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a reminder, there are really two key issues that we are working to address. First, establishing a model that maximizes staffing resources to continue to provide these services. And second, creating additional shelter space to meet the physical distance requirements. These are two major challenges that, if left unaddressed, threaten our ability to care for the homeless population. And that's why yesterday I joined regional leaders from the city, the county regional task force, and the Housing Commission to announce preparations that are underway right next door, the stand-up Golden Emergency Centers at Golden Hall and the San Diego Convention Center. So let me tell you what's been happening today. Today we moved 55 families from the Golden Hall Bridge Shelter operated by Father Joe's into motel rooms. This will make room for individuals from our current shelters to move to Golden Hall so we can provide the adequate physical distancing that is necessary. And of course, bringing part of our convention center online in the near future is going to give us even more room and space to shelter individuals who may be out on the streets today. So I do want to ask our media partners to please be patient as we remain a distance as these individuals have been moving in and around City Hall. We know you're eager for updates, and we will continue to provide them as they become available. And so next I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank all of our partners from across the city who are really stepping up. We are building a new model, and a model that other folks from around the state are looking at as to something that can be replicated. I want to thank the San Diego Housing Commission and the RTFH for their coordination for facilitating these quick and dramatic actions. The Metropolitan Transit System for providing transportation for these residents. And our city team, including Parks and Recreation employees, for assisting in the movement of these residents' belongings. And of course, our motel operators for coordinating on-site logistics as individuals have been moving in. Father Joe's Villages, you're going to hear from Deacon in a second, for their diligent work to ensure the residents are met, their needs are met as they are relocated. And Alpha Project San Diego for stepping up to provide case management for these families in this new ecosystem that is being developed. I'm going to have Councilmember Ward and Tamara and Deacon speak more about all of these issues in just a second. Shifting gears, earlier this morning, I had the opportunity to speak with Baja Governor Jaime Bonilla, the state of Baja California. Our collaboration as a region has been on full display as we both work to curb the spread of this virus. Today, our neighbors in Mexico and Baja announced that they are following in our footsteps in San Diego, in our county, by closing down all the bars and closing down major venues like theaters. I can't emphasize the importance enough of this decision. It is something that we have been working on collaboratively to ensure that we move towards that model of one set of precautions, both in San Diego and on the other side of the border, particularly those that travel to San Diego for essential work. We have a very clear message. We are taking physical distancing very, very seriously. That also means that changes how we're communicating and working together. Today, I hosted 2 video conferences with San Diego's business community to talk about what we're doing to provide relief, as well as what businesses are doing to help to fight against coronavirus. The first meeting of more than 100 businesses was by our improvement districts, business improvement districts, led by myself and the Downtown San Diego Partnership. We talked about small business relief and the fund that the City of San Diego is spearheading. I also hosted, in partnership with Council President Pro Tem Barbara Bree and Biocom, more than a dozen of San Diego's biotech companies. San Diego has always been a leader in the world of medicine and biotechnology. And I'm proud to say that during this coronavirus pandemic, we are still leading. National and worldwide attention on these great companies for all of the right reasons, for the work that they are doing, the research, and the work that we are doing right here, right now in San Diego on tests, on therapeutics, and even potential vaccines that will help this country and this world get through this pandemic. Council President Pro Tem Bree and I agreed that we can continue to work together. Really, it's our goal to help with our federal and state partners to do our part to remove red tape, to help get the word out about the great work that is going on in our biotechnology community. And I can tell you that the spirit, their determination was just fantastic. San Diego should be very, very proud of it. And lastly, I spoke earlier about the economic package that we announced last week. This package is incredibly important to keep San Diego's small business community afloat during these very turbulent times. Small businesses are the economic engine that drives our city, and they need our help. The San Diego Economic Relief Package includes nearly $6 million in grants for local businesses, microloans for small businesses, no commercial or water shutoffs following our previous actions that we did for San Diego residents, including that now for the business community, 180-day extension on all building permits, and deferral of the business tax fee. My message tomorrow at the City Council will be simple. We need to act now and united front to help our small businesses and families. We need to act now to help our community who is struggling and are making ends meet in this time of very great need. And I will also be urging the City Council to put residential and commercial eviction moratoriums into law. We'll be able to get this through this by working together and taking these decisive actions. I want to thank my colleagues on the City Council, all of whom who are working day in and day out on not only items in their district, but again, the work that we are doing citywide to move this economic relief package, this very important package for families and small businesses tomorrow. Now I'd like to introduce Councilmember Chris Ward to say a few words. As I think many of you know, Councilmember Ward serves as our Vice Chair of the Regional Task Force for the Homeless. Councilmember?
Thank you, Mayor Faulkner. I'm just going to wait a second for our interpreter to get in place. Well, thank you. And as a City Council member for the 3rd District and the Chair of the Regional Task Force on the Homeless, I want to first thank all of the partnering agencies for their continuing efforts to prepare for and mitigate the spread of the virus. This includes the city, the county, the Housing Commission, and the Regional Task Force staff that have been working nonstop to coordinate our COVID response. I also want to particularly thank our homeless service providers and their frontline staff that are doing the hard work every day, 24 hours a day, truly stepping up to the challenge of the moment. We need to be looking out for all San Diegans, and the steps that we announced yesterday to expand Golden Hall and use portions of the convention center for shelter will provide an added level of safety for those experiencing homelessness in our community. Now, just one day later, we are pleased to report that the families here at Golden Hall have already begun to move to hotels, giving each of them more space. And as you heard from Mayor Faulkner, this now sets up the next step of moving the remaining single women in our bridge shelters over to Golden Hall. Including the ongoing placement of homeless seniors and families in hotels, we are giving our most vulnerable neighbors the opportunities to be indoors, wash their hands, and maintain a safe distance from each other, all the core tenets of how to stop the spread of COVID-19. Plans are now in action, and we will quickly plan up the next steps and act on those and repeat. This collaborative, thoughtful, and deliberative approach will save lives. And I understand that this is a time of uncertainty for so many of us. Many constituents and San Diegans right now are feeling nervous about paying the rent, and businesses are worried about how to keep their storefronts open and offices functional. To provide relief, the City Council will be voting tomorrow on an economic relief package and an emergency ordinance that places a moratorium on residential and commercial evictions for those impacted by COVID-19. We don't want anyone evicted, themselves facing homelessness. And as we all continue to stay inside, wash our hands, care for our families, and help reduce new infections, we need to do these things under the safety and comfort of a roof. All San Diegans need this protection now, and with this week's actions, I am grateful that we are making this possible. And we will monitor, evaluate, plan, act, and repeat. I want to thank my council colleagues, the mayor, and the city emergency operations team that have been working around the clock to ensure our health during this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And now I'd like to turn it over to Tamara Kohler, who is CEO of the Regional Task Force on the Homeless. Tamara?
Thank you, Mayor Faulkner. We are truly moving quickly and deliberately to create this new ecosystem for our homeless. This is one of the biggest collaborations our region has seen in recent years, and we are all moving together in a coordinated manner. Yesterday, as we announced, the lower level of Golden Hall and parts of the Convention Center will be opening up to individuals currently in our shelters, and also to help bring more individuals in off the street. As the mayor said, today we moved 55 families with a compassionate approach from the city's bridge shelter on the upper level of Golden Hall, operated by Father Joe's Village. Those families and their belongings were relocated to 2 motels using some of the 200 rooms that were secured by the county for the Regional Task Force for homeless individuals. In the coming days, we will focus on the rest of the transition. 69 women from Father Joe's Village interim shelter at the main campus will be at the lower level of Golden Hall, and 37 women from Paths Connection interim shelter also will come to the lower level of Golden Hall. This will allow us to space out the remaining individuals in those shelters to meet the social distancing guidelines. The health and safety of all of our residents continues to be our top priority. We are continuing to monitor and screen individuals at all of our shelters for any signs or symptoms of the illness in coordination with the county. Our teams are continuing to work out logistics and capacity of how the convention center will be appropriately used. More information on that will be available as soon as it is solidified. We cannot stress enough how much this collaboration is nothing like we've seen before in San Diego. We have hundreds of people across our system, in the EOC, from our homeless service providers, from the city, from the county, from the Regional Task Force on the Homeless, and the Housing Commission, all helping us transition these families and individuals as easily as possible. I want to thank everyone for their hard work on this, and we will continue to provide updates on our efforts as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. Last up, somebody that needs no introduction to San Diegans, Deacon Jim Vargas, is really going to speak on the work that Father Joe's Villages continues to do to help those that are most vulnerable in our city. Deacon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon. Since early in the crisis, Father Joe's Villages has been advocating for shelter options that would provide a safe place for our neighbors to come off the streets. including quarantine and isolation spaces. We applaud this step to bring much-needed resources and collaborative solutions forward to serve those who are most vulnerable. Father Joe's Villages will continue its key role in operating the Golden Hall Bridge Shelter and looks forward to extending that role at the shelters offered in the San Diego Convention Center. As has been mentioned already, especially by the mayor, at 2 p.m. today, our Village Health Center, including Dr. Jeffrey Norris, our medical director, finished screening all of the families in our Golden Hall Bridge Shelter for symptoms in preparation for the move to the hotel rooms. We finished screening the single woman at around 11:30 a.m. to prepare for relocation as well. 55 families, as was said, which represents 153 people, have been relocated to hotels as of this afternoon. The 26 women we serve are currently preparing for the move as well. Those are being served currently on the second level of Golden Hall. Understandably, the families and women we serve through the Bridge Shelter are anxious about the pandemic and how it will affect themselves and their families. However, they understand the necessity of this move and are grateful that there are actions being taken to protect their health and their safety. In the past week, Father Joe's Villages has begun redirecting our staff and resources to support our services that meet the critical needs of our neighbors experiencing homelessness. In addition to these changes, we have paused or moved to phone-based services to mitigate the risk of contraction for staff and clients and honor social distancing for all services where that is possible. The needs of our clients remain our top priority. We will continue to provide crucial shelter and housing to families, veterans, and people living with chronic illness. Intakes are open for all of our shelter programs. We are continuing to distribute to-go meals to those who are hungry. We also continue to offer showers and laundry through the San Diego Day Center, and we are providing critical health care services, screening and assessment for COVID-19 through our Village Health Center and Street Health program. In addition to these changes, Father Joe's Villages closed all the thrift stores and its donation centers and paused donation pickups last week. As you can imagine, we rely on the funds generated by our thrift stores and goods donations to support our programs and services. Although this was a necessary move to protect the health and safety of our staff, our customers, and our donors, it will have a major impact on fundraising of our programs. In response to this increased need due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the organization established the Father Joe's Villages Emergency Response Fund. Father Joe's Villages asks supporters and community members to contribute to its emergency response efforts to protect the health of our neighbors in need and save lives during the COVID-19 crisis. Longtime donor, philanthropist, and Qualcomm co-founder Franklin Antonio has provided $400,000 matching gift challenge to encourage support from the larger community. We ask that the community step up to help us continue our critical services during this time by contributing to the Emergency Response Fund, which you can find on our website, neighbor.org. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deacon, and thank you to all of my colleagues who are here today for their focus, their singular focus on helping those that are less fortunate and needed help and assistance. With that, I will pause and be happy to answer any questions on these or any other topics.
Thanks, Mayor. Dave Summers, NBC7. Just, I have two questions concerning gun shops. Will the San Diego Police Department cite or close gun shops under the governor's only essential businesses open in the city?
Yeah, I would refer you to the governor's order on what's essential and not essential, and I believe that Sheriff Gore addressed that earlier today in terms of the steps that not only those, but any open business has to do in terms of physical distancing, making sure you're doing all of that for gun shops and any others.
I did read the press release from the sheriff. It sounds like the gun shops are going to stay open. I'm wondering, do you agree with said policy, or do you share the sheriff's concern that if we were to close those shops, that in fact we might create a black market?
Yeah, we're working very closely with our county partners, law enforcement, the sheriff, our chief, Dave Nisleit, our police department. We said this from the very beginning. We're going to move forward as one region. That goes for any businesses working and complying with all the state orders. We're united in that, and I support the sheriff in that.
Last question then, just on the gun shops, Mayor, please. We had a gun shop owner respond to our questions today saying that he would not voluntarily close his shop. So he's basically saying you know, you're going to have to make me. And I wonder what your reaction to that kind of response would be.
Well, that's not an issue at this point. I think the sheriff has made that clear.
Okay, great. And Chris, can I ask you, you said, could you go over one more time what you intend to take to City Council tomorrow in terms of a plan moving forward, business plan, support plan?
Sure. So tomorrow we have a package of resolutions that have really understated the council's interest in being able to reach out to city, or sorry, county, state, federal resources to have a whole host of directives, the wishes that the city would like to be able to see for all of our partners to really get a better sense around the control of the environment for evictions, for immigration issues, for county relationships. All these, of course, are strong, but we want to memorialize those through council action. On the business front, we have an economic incentive package that the mayor's team, Councilmember Cade is the chair of our Economic Development and Intergovernmental Relations Committee, has been able to move forward. And so for the mayor, if you wanted me to go into more detail on some of those, I would have to kick it back to him.
Well, I'm sorry, just you had mentioned no commercial water shutoffs. You had mentioned tax deferment, I thought was part of what you were going to go take before council.
I'll let the mayor speak to his proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Business tax deferment, that's it. That is going to be a part of it, and that's important because the focus is small businesses. They are the lifeblood. They're the backbone of our economy. As I mentioned earlier, about 90% of all businesses in San Diego are small businesses, and so helping them get through these very difficult times is something that we're united on. We are also looking towards what's going to be happening at the federal level. Hopefully this is going to be a part of that because we all need to do our part. And why it's so incredibly important that we are acting now, not only from a peace of mind, but from a real standpoint, as you are making real-time decisions vis-a-vis employees, vis-a-vis expenses. That's something we need, small businesses need to know that we have your back.
Thank you.
Hello, Gary Worth, San Diego Union Tribune. About the move to the convention center and repurposing of Golden Hall, I was wondering if there's any kind of anticipated date yet for the convention
Yeah, let me
center?
great question. Thank you, Gary. Let me turn it over to Tamara for the specifics on the dates and the timing of convention center.
So as you can imagine, in making the announcement yesterday, there is a lot of preparation that is going into preparing the convention center to be able to receive homeless population. So when all of those preparations are complete, so that when we can move people over into an environment where they are spaced appropriately, have access to all of their resources, and there is a clear process of doing that, which we literally are working about 14-hour days to do that, we'll be able to open the convention center. But it's really important that we have all of those pieces in place. They met again to look at the convention center today to do some additional final planning. So we will let you know. It'll probably come out of the mayor's office. But we are moving very quickly to make that facility ready to receive our individuals who have been sheltered first, and then a process for our unsheltered to receive those services as well.
No ballpark idea about like a week or a few weeks?
You know what, I would say as quickly as absolutely possible. You have to have a few permits, a couple things that we need to make sure are signed off on. But I would not say that we are not as far away as others may think, but we need to be intentional that when it is opened, it is ready to receive a homeless population with all of the services that they need, including the health care. So we're working with the county to get some final pieces of their support there as well.
And what is going to happen with the three shelter tents? Are they, and also upstairs on Golden Hall, what's going to happen upstairs on Golden Hall? Is everyone moving downstairs? Will that be repurposed for any homeless services too?
So it is a very, and we've said this, a very intentional and deliberate process to create the spacing that's needed. Golden Hall did not have, the upstairs have the spacing for either the family or the single women. And so currently the intent is to bring those women downstairs to the lower level where it is spaced appropriately, and also to bring women from other shelters which will keep that distancing. The bridge shelters, not the Golden Hall, but our other alpha ones, We will be creating that distancing as well by bringing those women to the Golden Hall, and then be able to move those from shelter when the convention center is ready to the convention center. Then those bridge shelters will become an intake site for our unsheltered populations, where they can be assessed, where we can understand what their health conditions are, and also their personal belongings, so that we're able to, in a very organized and recognizing the health conditions as a screening potential important piece, that anybody who then comes to those bridge shelters are intake to the most appropriate shelter option. We will have people that will be going to hotel motels directly from there. We will have people who will be screened and maybe be isolated for health reasons. So they will go from being a primary shelter location where it was too dense to being an intake and screening location, to be able to bring as many of our unsheltered in to our sheltered system, understanding the social distancing and also potentially some isolation dates to make sure that we have as screened and healthy and well individuals coming into the convention center as possible.
But that goes for all the bridge shelters, including VVST and the two Alpha tents? They're all going to be repurposed?
Yes.
Yeah.
And one other thing was a little confused about, over at Alpha, they were going to move the women there, I thought, this week because it's kind of dense at the Newton Street shelter. Are they not going to move? And is that a concern that they might still be in close confinement there until they do move?
So there is an intentional approach to the 17th and Newton. It is very dense. We may, Gary, if the convention center is ready, move them to the convention center as a group. So that's how close we are on this convention center. We don't want to have to disrupt people and do two moves, but we have a very intentional approach on those Alpha ones to address them as quickly as possible.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. Tamara, as I said, as our CEO, has been spending a lot of time on this, and on the issue of ensuring, Gary, when folks are moved, that the services are there and ready. So it's not just about having a bed. It's about having the wraparound services. It's about our partners with the county on health care and health services, behavioral health specialists who we've been meeting with. The goal is to change this ecosystem very quickly, but when somebody arrives, all of that help and support is ready. And so that's why it is incredibly important that we're all working very quickly but deliberatively, because the benefit of having the shelter system that we have created in San Diego, we know how to do this. But now we have to scale it up to a scale that we've never done before because the situation calls for it.
Hi, I know you guys are going longer than usual today. Thank you so much. Kasha from Fox. Just real quick, I know we've talked about economic relief and also
Yep.
eviction relief. Is it two separate packages that are
It
going to be
is.
voted on?
Yes, one on eviction for families and one on economics relief for small businesses. Both of those will be before the San Diego City Council tomorrow.
What time tomorrow?
I believe the meeting's at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Should we see support and see these packages pass, how quickly could businesses and residents see the changes?
We're going to be moving forward right away, and that was the whole idea. This is an emergency situation, so these ordinances are written to be emergency to take place right away.
I know you mentioned motel and hotel rooms that had been secured
Yep.
earlier this week. Do you want to quickly update how many, what the number's at right now?
Yeah, as we said, 55 families have moved into those today, and we're up to about 2,000 with our partnership with the County of San Diego, moving very quickly. The good news is I think we're going to be able to bring on more online. And so the system that Tamara was talking about and we've all been talking about has done to say, how do we put the folks that need immediate help, some that may need quarantine, into that situation immediately? Again, separating individuals, keeping people safe and the distancing. The hotel inventory is an incredibly important part of that. So it all works together. The hotel inventory, the convention center, Golden Hall, our bridge shelters, as I said, into a new ecosystem that is going to be the largest one we've ever had in San Diego. There will be we're designing it as we go, but we've got, as I said before, and Deacon spoke to this, to have our providers that have said, how can we help? How do we make sure that we can just all jump in with both feet? It has represented the best of the city and the best of our homeless service providers.
Last question. Earlier this week, you guys had mentioned that no one up to this point in the homeless population had tested positive. Is there any update on that? Any cause for concern?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Not appreciate. Do we have one from anyone?
Mayor, we have a couple questions that were texted to us.
Yep.
One from Lisa Haverstadt, the Voice of San Diego. The new shelter capacity the city is adding is in downtown San Diego. How will the city facilitate serving homeless San Diegans who may live elsewhere in the city? Is that part of the plan?
It is. Thank you. This is a regional approach, and not only regionally in terms of the city of San Diego, but regional in terms of other parts of the county. Again, that's why Tamara and the regional task force have been taking the lead on this and are quarterbacked on this. Yes, we're always going to have the strongest influx here in the urban core, in the urban center of the city. But that's why we said from the very beginning, this is going to help all parts of the city, and the model that we are creating in the hotels and others will be replicated in other parts of the county as well.
Another question from Lisa. Some of the folks who saw photos at Golden Hall yesterday, including homeless advocates, have raised concerns about spacing of beds in the city's new Golden Hall facility. Can you respond to that?
So when we held the press conference there, we had not finished the setup. So we hadn't put the bedding on those yet. So they are very intentionally going to be spread out to meet the requirements. So we didn't have anybody in there. It wasn't ready for them to move in. As we're moving people today, it is spread out appropriately. It's very intentionally set up that way. Thank you.
Last question from Cody Delaney and iNews Source, and this is for Councilmember Ward. What can the regional task force on the homeless do to help homeless shelters throughout the city that are low on supplies such as hand sanitizers, disinfectant wipes, to ensure that they are following the CDC's recommendations for cleaning and disinfection?
So right now, we are working really closely with all of our shelters to make sure they have a current and ongoing supply, especially as we expect to expand capacity. We want to make sure that the supply will be able to match that and there will be no interruption. But whether it's through direct supply chains, some additional partners that have been able to step online to be able to fill some of those, or possibly reaching out for community donations, we're going to stay engaged with the press and the public to be able to look for those opportunities to make sure that supply chain does not run out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I think that was our last question. Appreciate you attending today's briefing. We'll have another one tomorrow. Again, thanks to all of my partners and all the partners in our homeless service provider community. Thank you for working together as a team. That's exactly what we need. Thank you.